Lyra stood at the edge of the observation deck, her crystalline eyes reflecting the swirling clouds of Titan's orange sky. The summit hall below buzzed with voices in dozens of alien tongues, but her heart beat only for one person. Traveled across light years to represent Xar, yet she felt more lost than ever. Memories of her childhood home, silent crystal gardens, and polished marble halls drifted through her mind like distant echoes. Captain Rowan Hayes strode into view, his uniform crisp and his dark hair catching the soft glow of the station's lights. He paused when he saw Lyra, offering a gentle smile that warmed something deep inside her. She forced herself to stand straighter, recalling every lesson she had learned about diplomacy and composure. But as he approached, her resolve melted. "Good evening, Ambassador," Lyra Rowan said, voice low and calm. He leaned on the railing beside her, the gap between them charged with unspoken words. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. She studied his features, the kindness in his eyes, the easy confidence in his stance. On Earth, she had seen portraits of humans arguing politics or waging wars. This human was nothing like those images. He was gentle and strong, curious and caring. "Captain Hayes," she replied, her voice soft. "Thank you for agreeing to speak with me." She lifted her hand to smooth a stray lock of silvery hair. I find this summit overwhelming." Rowan nodded. "It can be a lot. Nations or planets have a way of forgetting that every representative is a person first." He glanced down at the distant horizon. "Sometimes we just need to talk to someone who listens." Lyra felt a sudden surge of longing. She thought of the arranged marriage awaiting her back on Xar, a union of duty and status, not hearts. She hated the thought more than anything. She squeezed her hands into fists. Then she chose honesty over caution. "On Xar, my life is planned," she said, voice trembling. "I have a future laid out by my family and my council. I must marry a noble from House Vesker." She looked at Rowan, searching his face. "But I have never felt love, not for duty." Rowan's brow lifted. "That sounds hard." She swallowed. "Yes, I envy humans. You follow your hearts. You choose your partners." The words tumbled out faster than she could control. She closed her eyes, embarrassed. She dared to open them. She saw Rowan's surprise. And yet he said, slowly, "You don't believe a human could love an alien?" Lyra's cheeks burned. The words came unbidden. "You want me as your bride, human? Are you for real?" Her voice cracked at the end, equal parts challenge and plea. Silence stretched between them. Lyra expected laughter or mockery. Instead, Rowan's eyes softened. He took a step closer. I never thought of it that way," he admitted. "Now that you ask, I would be honored." He offered his hand, palm up. "If it is real, I want it to be real." Lyra felt as if the air around her had turned to warm liquid. She hesitated only a moment before placing her hand in his. The contact sent a pulse through her, like the hum of a crystal in resonance. Her heart, which had felt cold and steady, fluttered with surprising joy. "Real," she whispered. Rowan's smile widened. He bowed his head, a gesture he had learned from old human customs. It looked both respectful and playful. Lyra's lips curved into the truest smile she had ever known. In that instant, the distant deck, the summit below, and the weight of her duties faded away. They stood together, two beings from worlds apart, united by a simple and powerful truth, that hope and hope alone could heal distance. Rowan's hand raised her free hand to her chest, her crystal pendant catching the light. For the first time, she said, voice steady, "I feel free." Rowan covered her hand with both of his. "Then let us chart this course together." Lyra nodded. As they looked out over the swirling skies of Titan, she believed anything was possible. Love, she realized, was the greatest frontier of all. Lyra woke before dawn in her private quarters, the pale glow of Titan's distant sun filtering through the viewports. Her thoughts churned like the restless waves of Xar's crystal seas. She dressed in the soft, silken robes of her people, each fold heavy with the weight of expectation. Today, she would meet with Counselor Vesh to discuss the summit's progress and her future. The thought tightened her chest like a vice. Counselor Vesh's chambers were cool and echoing. Walls carved from translucent crystal that caught the early light. He sat behind a low dais, his stern face all sharp angles and polished surfaces. Lyra knelt before him, head bowed. She felt the familiar flutter of nerves. On Xar, honor always began with respect. But she also carried a secret spark of hope. That had ignited when she last spoke to Captain Hayes. Ambassador Lyra Vesh began, voice smooth as river stones. Your reports speak highly of humanity's leaders. You find them amiable. He raised an eyebrow, as though tasting her words. And yet, you have spoken sentiments unbecoming of a Xar noble. You claim you would choose a human over the arrangements of your own world. Lyra steadied her voice. I meant only to share what I feel, she said. Humans value choice. They seem free to follow their hearts. She dared a glance at his face. That freedom makes me wonder what life could be like. Vesh rose and paced slowly. Each step echoed. You forget your duty. House Vesker awaits your pledge. Your union will strengthen our alliances. You are not a child who chases fleeting feelings. He paused coldly. Return to reason, Ambassador. Remember? The weight you carry for Xar. Her temples throbbed. She swallowed. Duty is important, she agreed, but duty without heart is empty. Humans bind themselves through love. I have seen it bring strength. Her words trembled, but held firm. I feel as if a path exists where honor and love walk hand in hand. Vesh's eyes narrowed. Sentiment will not safeguard our future, he warned. Yet in that moment, Lyra sensed something shift in him, a faint spark of curiosity. She held his gaze. Perhaps a future built on mutual respect and genuine care would last longer than one built on obligation. She left his chambers with her spirit both worn and exhilarated. Outside, the station's corridors thrummed with life. Lyra paused at a window overlooking a docking bay, where human and alien crafts glided in harmony. She thought of Rowan, busy with his own duties, yet always finding time to listen. The memory of his warm eyes steadied her. Later, in a quiet lounge, Lyra found him reviewing data logs. He looked up, relief flooding his face. Lyra, he said, are you well? He rose and offered her a seat. She sat beside him on a curved bench, its cushions molded like gentle waves. She took a breath. Counselor Vesh reminds me of my obligations, my arranged marriage to a Xar noble. Her voice cracked. I feel torn between two worlds. She looked down at her hands, fingers twisting the edge of her robe. I fear I dishonor my family if I choose my heart. Rowan reached out and gently touched her hand. His warmth soothed her. I can't imagine the pressure you face, he said. On Earth, people still have to choose between duty and heart. It's never easy. He closed his datapad. But I believe in you. You're strong enough to find a path that honors both your people and yourself. Lyra looked into his eyes and found hope there. Strength alone is not always enough, she whispered. I need courage to stand against centuries of tradition. Her voice grew steady. But your belief, it gives me courage. Rowan smiled softly. Then let me stand with you, he promised. Together we can show Xar that love and duty can coexist. He squeezed her hand. I will honor your culture and your family. I will learn your ways if you teach me. Her heart swelled. The room's soft hum faded, leaving only the pulse of her own hope. Thank you, she said, voice bright. I will teach you everything. They sat in comfortable silence, side by side, watching starships glide in the void. Lyra felt the first stirrings of a new dream, one where her heart's desire and her people's honor walked forward together. In that simple promise, she found a bridge between worlds, and her spirit soared higher than any crystal spire on Xar. Lyra was running down the narrow corridor when the alarm blared through the station speakers. A sudden meteor storm had punched through Titan's outer shields and was tearing toward the power grid. Red lights flashed over crystal panels. As technicians scrambled, Lyra's heart pounded. She knew that if the reactors failed, the entire station would go dark and lives could be lost. She pushed aside her fear and raced toward the reactor bay, determined to help Captain Rowan Hayes, was already there, barking orders. His voice was calm but firm. Reroute auxiliary power to Sector 3. Jamal, seal the coolant valves. Rowan moved among the humans and aliens alike, his eyes bright with purpose. Lyra arrived just as a technician cried out, "A power!" Conduit had melted, sparks flew, and the heat made her skin tingle. She steadied herself and knelt beside the damaged conduit, drawing on the teachings of her people. Lyra placed her hands on the crystal shell around the reactor. She closed her eyes and focused on the energy inside her. On Zar, she had learned to shape crystal energy with her mind and will. Now, she'd let the warmth of hope guide her power. A soft glow spread from her palms into the crystal casing. Sparks dimmed as her energy flowed through the circuits, stabilizing them. The conduit hissed and glowed, then held steady. Rowan watched with awe. He raised his voice so everyone could hear. "All teams, give her space. She's doing something incredible." Even Counselor Vesh, who had arrived later, stood back, his arms crossed, but his eyes wide. Lyra felt a surge of relief. The crystal casing hummed under her touch, and the reactor lights steadied. But the strain was heavy, her arms shook, and sweat beaded on her brow. The storm was still raging outside, and more meteors were lined. Up to strike, Rowan dashed to her side. "Lyra, you're doing great. I'll keep the others on task." He reached for a data tablet and input new directives. "Extra coolant to back up conduits. Brace for impact." And he placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. His warmth calmed the tremor in her arms. She nodded, breathing deeply, and let his confidence strengthen her own. Together, they formed an unspoken bond, human courage and Zar, crystal skill united. The station rocked with the next meteor strike. The bay lights flickered. The humming of the reactor grew uneven. Lyra gritted her teeth and channeled more energy. She felt fatigue claw at her strength, but she thought of the lives on the station, her new friends. She let anger at the storm fuel her resolve. The crystal shell glowed brighter, pushing power through the damaged wires. At last, the humming evened out, and the bay light steadied into a firm. Hopeful glow technicians cheered as the alarm light turned from red back to green. Eva slapped her hands together and shouted, "We're stable." Jamal let out a relieved laugh. Rowan released Lyra's shoulder and turned to the team. "Great work, everyone," he said, voice warm. Then he looked at Lyra with pride shining. In his eyes, "You saved us all." Lyra stepped back, her breathing ragged but her face alight. She touched the edge of her robe as if to steady herself. Around her, humans and aliens exchanged smiles and relieved nods. Even Counselor Vesh approached, his stern face softer than before. "Ambassador," he said, voice low, "I owe you my thanks. Your gift saved this station." Lyra inclined. Her head, her smile gentle but confident, Rowan offered her a water flask. She took it gratefully and drank. The cool liquid soothed her dry throat. He stood close and whispered, "I knew humans and Zar could do great things together. Today proved it." She looked up at him, her crystal eyes shining, and felt hope blossom in her chest. In that moment, she understood that true power came from unity and that her connection with Rowan was more than a spark. It was the bright flame of possibility. As the bay cleared, Lyra and Rowan walked side by side to the observation deck. Outside, the last of the meteors burned away in Titan's orange sky. The station lights glowed steady and strong. Lyra placed her hand on Rowan's arm and said softly, "Thank you for believing in me." He smiled and squeezed her hand. "Thank you for saving us." Together, they watched the calm sky, hearts full of hope, ready for whatever came next. Counselor Vesh's words echoed in Lyra's mind as she entered the delegation hall the next morning. The crystalline walls caught the light and scattered it into dancing patterns, but her spirit felt heavy. Delegates from dozens of worlds stood, in clusters, their alien voices humming like living music. Lyra felt each gaze like a weight on her shoulders. She had saved the station and shown her people's power, yet she also knew she had crossed an invisible line. Vesh waited at the center, his tall form framed by glowing crystal pillars. His face was impassive, but his eyes burned with authority. Lyra stepped forward, steadying her breath. Around them, delegates quieted, sensing that something important would happen. Lyra's heart pounded, but she held her head high. She would not shrink away from her truth. Ambassador Lyra, Vesh began, voice cold. You have shown great strength in the reactor bay, yet you continue to dishonor Tsar's traditions. He spoke each word slowly, as if tasting its weight. Private feelings for a human officer threaten our alliances and our honor. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Lyra felt her cheeks flush. She stepped toward him. Counselor, she said, voice clear, I honor Tsar and my people, but I also honor my own heart. Captain Hayes did not force me to speak my truth. I chose to trust him. She felt her voice tremble, but she spoke on. Is it dishonor to find courage? To seek understanding between worlds? Vesh's stern face did not soften. He raised a hand, silencing the murmurs. Love is a private matter, he said. Diplomacy demands control. You risk everything for personal desire. His gaze flicked to the human delegation, where a few human diplomats exchanged worried looks. Lyra knew the risk was real. Before she could reply, Rowan. Hayes strode into the hall, his boots echoing on the polished floor. He paused beside her, his presence a steadying force. The hall fell silent again. Rowan met Vesh's cold stare without fear. Counselor Vesh, he said, voice firm and respectful. Ambassador Lyra represents Tsar with honor. Her actions saved this station and ensured every life remained safe. Lyra felt a surge of pride. Rowan's defense was public and bold. She squeezed his hand, grateful for his courage. Delegates leaned forward, eyes on Rowan. Vesh's lips pressed into a thin line. Rowan continued, If I choose to stand by her, does that diminish your honor? Or does it show that two worlds can unite through mutual respect? A hush spread through the hall. Even Counselor Vesh looked uncertain for a moment. Lyra saw curiosity. In the delegates' eyes, they had come to judge. They were listening. Rowan bowed his head slightly to Vesh. I ask only that you allow us the chance to prove that unity brings strength. Vesh's expression shifted, as if he weighed the fate of Tsar itself. Then he exhaled slowly. If this union is to proceed, it must serve Tsar's best interests. His tone remained stern, but the edge had softened. We will observe your bond, Ambassador. You will report on its progress. A ripple of relief passed through Lyra. She turned to Rowan and smiled, tears of joy gathering. Delegates exchanged nods, some whispering in approval. Rowan stepped beside her and bowed to Vesh. Thank you, Counselor. His voice held warmth and respect. As they left the hall, Lyra felt a lightness she had not known in days. Rowan wrapped an arm around her shoulders. You were brave, he whispered. Your honesty changed minds. She leaned into him, her heart full. Outside. The hall, the station's viewports, revealed the swirling gold of Titan's atmosphere. Lyra took a deep breath of recycled air, tasting freedom for the first time. That evening, in a quiet observation bay, Lyra and Rowan stood together, watching distant stars. She rested her head on his shoulder. Thank you for standing with me, she said softly. Rowan kissed her temple. Always, he replied. Together, we will show our people that the strongest alliances are those of the heart. Lyra closed, her eyes certain that love and honor could indeed walk the same path. Lyra walked through the harmonic gardens on Tsar, the crystal paths glowing faintly under her feet. The gardens were silent except for the whisper of resonant winds through the crystal spires. She paused at a reflecting pool, its surface like polished glass. Here, she hoped to calm the whirlwind in her mind. She knelt by the pool and closed her eyes. Memories of her childhood filled her thoughts, playing among the crystal blooms, learning her duties in the marble hall. She felt the weight of generations pressing on her shoulders. Duty had always been her guide, but now her heart called her. In a different direction, Lyra opened her eyes and stared at her reflection. The familiar contours of her face looked back, but beneath her calm surface, her heart raced with hope and fear. She remembered Rowan's warm smile, the touch of his hand in the reactor bay, the night they spoke their truths, under Titan's orange sky. She rose and walked deeper into the garden. Crystal flowers chimed with the breeze, their light pulsing. Softly, each step felt like walking between two worlds, one of tradition and duty, the other of love and possibility. Lyra's breath caught as she wrestled with her choice. In the center of the garden stood the oldest crystal shrine. It pulsed with gentle light, a reminder of Zar's ancient ways. Lyra bowed her head, placing her hand on the shrine's cool surface. She whispered a prayer for guidance, for courage to follow her heart without betraying her people. Time passed in stillness. Lyra felt the shrine's resonance calm her mind, but her heart remained restless. She realized that true peace would come only when she faced her feelings, not by hiding from them. With steady resolve, she rose and walked back toward the station's portal. Her fingers hovered over the communicator. Doubt flickered. What if Counselor Vesh saw her message? What if her people saw her choice as betrayal? But she thought of Rowan's unwavering belief in her. She typed a simple request. Meet me in the Central Arboretum at sundown. The reply arrived almost instantly. I'll be there. Her chest tightened with relief. Lyra allowed herself a small smile. She returned to her quarters to prepare, choosing a gown spun from soft Zar silks, colored like dawn. Her hair fell freely over her shoulders, a sign of personal choice rather than duty. At sunset, Lyra entered the Arboretum. The glass dome above glowed with fading light and bioluminescent. Plants cast gentle blues and greens. Air smelled of alien flowers and fresh water. She waited by a crystalline fountain, its water singing a quiet song. Rowan appeared at the entrance carrying a small box made of meteor steel. He smiled when he saw her. His uniform was simple, yet it suited him. Lyra felt her heart flutter. He offered the box with a bow. Inside lay a delicate ring, forged from fallen stars. I made this for you, he said softly. To show my respect for your world and my promise to you. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She opened her hand and let him slip the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, as if it belonged there. She took a deep breath and spoke. You for everything you've done. You showed me that hope and love can guide us. Her voice was steady, full of gratitude. Will you learn more about my world, on my terms? Rohan nodded and took her hand. I want nothing more. They walked among the glowing plants, sharing stories of home and dreams for the future. Around them, the Arboretum seemed to shine, brighter, as if celebrating their union. When the first stars appeared in the dome above, Lyra looked up and whispered, This is just the beginning. Rowan squeezed her hand and smiled. Together they stepped into the heart of the Arboretum. Ready to shape a future where love and duty walked side by side? Lyra stood in the twilight glow of the Central Arboretum, her meteor steel ring glinting on her finger. She watched the soft bioluminescent leaves sway as tiny motes of light floated in the air. Her heart raced with excitement and a gentle nervousness. She had invited Rowan to share something of his world with her. Now she waited, hoping it would bridge their cultures. Rowan entered carrying 2 small satchels. One was woven from human fibers and bore faint musical notes stitched in silver thread. The other was a sleek box of polished stone. He smiled when he saw Lyra. I brought something for you, he said, voice warm. He knelt and placed the box before her. Something I hope you will share with me. Lyra opened the box carefully. Inside lay a set of small data chips and a simple pendant, a woven circle of meteor steel with a crystal at its center. The crystal glowed faintly with captured starlight. This is for you, Rowan said, to carry a piece of Titan with you, wherever you go. Lifted the pendant and fastened it around Lyra's neck. She felt its gentle weight against her skin and smiled. Thank you, she whispered. The crystal pressed lightly against her chest, warm with his thoughtfulness. She lifted one of the music-stitched satchels. And these? She asked. Rowan handed her a chip. Human songs, he said. Music we use to celebrate. I want you to hear the songs of my home. He pressed a small button on her communicator, and soft human melodies filled the air. The notes were gentle and hopeful piano. Arpeggios, soft drum beats, a soaring human voice singing of unity and light. Lyra closed her eyes and let the music wash over her. She thought of her crystal gardens, of the hush before dawn on Zar. The songs felt like a new dawn. Tears glimmered in her eyes as she opened them to meet Rowan's gaze. "Your world? It sings with hope," she said. "I feel it in my heart." Rowan offered his hand. "Will you dance with me?" Lyra nodded and took his hand. They moved slowly among the glowing plants. Her silk gown brushed against the soft moss underfoot. His steps were gentle, his hand steady. Around them, the arboretum seemed to sigh. With contentment, when the music faded, they stood side by side. Rowan's eyes shone with emotion. "I want to honor your world, Lyra," he said, "just as you honor mine." She placed her hand over his. "Then let our union show both our peoples that love and respect can unite us." Her voice was firm and bright. Far above, the station's diplomats watched from the observation balcony. Counselor Vesh and a human envoy stood together, exchanging thoughtful looks. The envoy spoke quietly to Vesh. Lyra and Rowan saw their attention, but felt no embarrassment. Instead, they saw curiosity and cautious hope shining back at them. Envoy approached with measured steps. In his hands was a formal scroller, proposed alliance ritual. "Ambassador Lyra, Captain Hayes," he began in a respectful tone. "On behalf of the United Coalition of Worlds, I present this new ceremony to celebrate your union and our shared future." He handed the scroll to Lyra. She opened it and read the elegant script. A ceremony blending crystal lights with human music and spoken vows in both languages. Lyra's eyes glowed as she read. She turned to Rowan. "This ritual honors both our cultures," she said. "It speaks of unity, respect, and love." Rowan bowed to the envoy. "Thank you," he said. "We accept this gift." The envoy smiled broadly. "May it guide us all toward peace." That evening, Lyra and Rowan met with both delegations in the Arboretum. Crystal lanterns hovered in the air, casting soft rainbows of light. Human musicians prepared their instruments, and Zar crystal chanters tuned their voices. As everyone gathered, Lyra felt her heart swell with pride. This ceremony would stand as proof that two very different worlds could come together. Rowan took her hand in his and led her to the center of the gathering. She looked at the faces around her, humans and aliens alike, and felt a deep joy. Ceremony would be tomorrow, but tonight they celebrated hope. Under the gentle glow of the Arboretum, Lyra and Rowan stood united, ready to show the galaxy that love and honor could walk hand in hand. The morning sun of Titan Station cast a soft gold across the Arboretum's glass dome. Crystal lanterns floated like drifting stars, and human musicians tuned their violins beside Zar chanters humming gentle melodies. Lyra stood beside Captain Rowan Hayes at the center of the gathering. Her meteor steel pendant and Rowan's simple ring caught the light, sending tiny rainbows across the crowd. Counselor Vesh stepped forward, his polished crystal robes glowing faintly. He raised his arms and spoke in the ancient Zar tongue, his voice echoing through the domed hall. Lyra watched each syllable shape into vibrations around her, feeling the weight of her people's history. When he finished, Rowan echoed the sentiment. In English, his words simple and true, "We join in unity, respect, and love." Lyra's chest tightened as she met Rowan's gaze. She felt grounded by the warmth in his eyes. He nodded, and she raised her hand to begin her vows. "I, Lyra of Zar," she said, her voice steady, "promise to honor your world as you have honored mine. I will stand by your side with courage, kindness, and hope." Rowan took a gentle breath and lifted his right hand. His voice was clear and honest. "I, Rowan of Earth, promise to protect your heart as fiercely as I protect our lives. I will learn your ways, respect your traditions, and share my world's joys with you every day." Around them, the music wove gentle patterns of light and sound. When the vows ended, Lyra and Rowan each placed a small crystal ribbon around the other's wrist. An earth-woven band for Lyra and a Zar-shaped braid for Rowan. The bands glowed softly, symbolizing their bond. As they tied the final knot, the assembled crowd let out a single, unified breath, sound both human and alien. The human envoy stepped forward with a silver chalice. It's filled with nectar from Tsar's crystal orchards. He offered it to Lyra and Rowan. They drank together, their heads touching lightly. The crowd watched in respectful silence. In that shared sip, they tasted both worlds, the sweetness of Tsar's orchards and the warmth of human fellowship. Music rose again this time, a gentle duet of violin and crystal chime. Lyra reached for Rowan's hand and led him into a slow dance beneath the lanterns. Her silk gown swirled like liquid dawn, and his uniform felt like home against her palm. The assemblage shifted, forming a ring of witnesses around them, human and alien standing united. As the dance ended, Lyra felt tears of joy spill down her cheeks. Rowan brushed one away and smiled. She whispered, "Thank you for this gift." He bowed his head. "Thank you for trusting me." In that moment in time felt still, and the distance between their worlds vanished. Counselor Vesh returned to Lyra's side. His stern face softened. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Your courage has shown us new paths," he said in Tsar. Lyra inclined her head. She knew his words carried respect and hope. Around them, delegates nodded, sharing looks of quiet approval. When the ceremony closed, a warmth filled the arboreta, more than sunlight or crystal glow. It was the promise of a future where human and Tsar might walk forward together. Lyra and Rowan stood hand in hand as the crowd dispersed, each guest offering smiles and blessings in both their languages. Later, as the sun set beyond the dome, Lyra and Rowan sat by the reflecting pool, laid her head on his shoulder, and felt the gentle pulse of her crystal pendant. He wrapped his arm around her, watched the first stars appear in Titan's sky, knowing their love would shine far brighter than any distant sun. They rose slowly, hands still joined, and walked out of the arboretum together. Each step echoed the truth they had declared, that honor and love could heal worlds. And as they passed through the glowing archway, they carried with them the hopes of two peoples, united by the bravest frontier of all, the heart.